Well, golf season's here. You can catch me in one of these golf shirts for about 6 more months now. So welcome back. If you're watching this video, very likely you might not have an idea where you stand financially compared to other Canadians. That's what we're going to talk about today. That uncertainty might be costing you some peace of mind, keeping you from spending your money that you've already earned, or worse, making you feel like you're behind when you're actually ahead. So today I'm going to show you exactly where you rank in net worth and income among the top 1%, 5%, 10%, and 25% in Canada. Because honestly, once you see where you actually stand, it'll change everything about how you approach retirement. I've spent years sitting across the table from Canadians who are in better financial shape than they ever realized. And watching that realization hit them, it's pretty powerful. My name is Ivan Dory. I own the investment advisory firm Solid State Wealth. And what I'm about to show you is something that most financial advisors never bother to talk about with their clients. So let's get into it. Let's start with net worth, because this is where most Canadians are flying completely blind. Now, based on the most recent Statistics Canada Survey of Financial Security data, to be in the top 25% of Canadian households by net worth, you need roughly $600,000 or more. That puts you ahead of 3/4 of this whole country. Now, here's where things get interesting going forward. To crack the top 10, you need approximately $2 million or higher. The top 5% requires roughly $2.8 million. And the top 1%, well, that threshold sits approximately $7.5 million in net worth or above. Now, before you react to those numbers, let me tell you what is probably missing from your calculation. These thresholds include everything: your home equity, your RRSP balance, your TFSA balance, your non-registered investments, your business interests, even your pension value if you have one. Most Canadians significantly underestimate their net worth because they only think about their liquid investments, what they might use in retirement. The rental property you bought 15 years ago, that counts. The defined benefit pension that you've been paying into for decades counts. It has a present value. The house that you bought that tripled or maybe quadrupled since you bought it, every dollar counts in this equation. I actually had a client, he was convinced he was barely middle class. When we added up his home equity, which you can draw down and you could use in retirement if people downsize, his pension value, his investment accounts, he was sitting at 2.3 million, top 5%. Now, he had spent years feeling financially insecure because he was only looking at his bank balance. If you want help running through that same calculation for yourself, I've put a link in the description below here. Book a time with me, we'll go through it. Now, let's talk about the income side now, because this tells a completely different story. So based on Stats Canada again, to be in the top 25% of individual income earners in Canada, you need roughly $70,000 in income. Top 10% starts at approximately $126,000. To reach the top 5%, you're looking at around $162,000. What do you think the top 1% is? Well, that requires $316,000 of annual income or higher. So here's what catches most people off guard. You can be in that top 5% of income earners and still feel like you're drowning, especially if you live in areas like Toronto or Vancouver, where housing costs can eat up half your paycheck. Meanwhile, somebody earning $60,000 in a smaller city could be building wealth faster than a Bay Street lawyer. This is why the income number can be misleading. A household earning $150,000 in Calgary with a paid off house is in a completely different position than a household earning $200,000 or more in Toronto with $1 million mortgage. Income percentile tells you only one thing. The net worth percentile tells you another. Neither one of them tells you the whole story. Now, I want to address the question that actually matters. What do these numbers mean for your retirement? Because here's what nobody will tell you. A higher percentile does not automatically mean a better retirement. It just means a bigger number. I worked with a couple not long ago who had been driving the same car for 15 years, skipping every vacation. They were convinced they couldn't afford to spend anything. When we actually ran their numbers and projections, their net worth, CPP, OAS, their spending needs, the math showed that they could actually increase their spending by 30% and still never run out of money. Not even close. They were sitting in the top 15% of Canadian households that had spent a decade living like they were barely getting by. This is not a math problem, it's just an information problem. And it can go the other way too. I've had clients walk into my office feeling wealthy because they're in the top 10%. But when we actually mapped out their spending against their actual assets, there was a pretty sizable gap. They wanted to retire at 58. They had expensive taste. They hadn't factored in increased health care as they aged. The percentile percentile that they were in did make them feel safe. The projections, when we went through it, it told a different story. Better to know that at 55 than to find out at 75 when your money's run out and your options are gone. So here's why the percentile number alone will always mislead you. It doesn't know your age. It doesn't know that you have a defined benefit pension that's worth another $1 million in present value on top of your investments, which also you can commute that value and pull out before you're 55 if you quit from that job. But that's a different video. Very powerful though. It doesn't know that you want to travel every year, help your kids buy a house, or plan to retire 6 years earlier than average. Two people can sit down with the exact same net worth percentile and have completely opposite retirement outcomes depending on those variables. The number that actually matters is whether your specific assets can support your specific life. And that requires running your own math. At the end of the day, knowing where you rank among Canadians is interesting. It kind of puts it in perspective. But what changes your retirement is knowing what those numbers actually mean for you. How much can you spend confidently? When can you actually stop working? What does your life look like if the math says you can have everything you planned for? Do you retire sooner? Those are the questions worth answering. If you want to understand what your ranking actually means for your retirement, and more importantly, what you can confidently spend without fear, book a time with me. The link is in the description below, and I'd be happy to help. Take care. We'll see you in the next video.